If you think a multi-day destination wedding in Europe that looks like it costs six figures is impossible on a $30,000 budget, I'm here to prove you very wrong. In this video, I am breaking down a real $30,000 budget using actual numbers from weddings we have actually produced all across Europe. So if you are totally lost on how to have a wedding in Europe that looks like $1 million without spending it, stick around. But first, hey guys, I'm Kay. I am a destination wedding planner helping untraditional travel-loving couples plan multi-day intimate destination weddings abroad in Europe on a budget. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button to be notified every time I post another video to help you plan your destination wedding successfully. We have planned weddings all across Europe for budget-conscious couples who need to make every penny count. So we've worked with these numbers, we've massaged these numbers, and over the years we have found the cheapest and most affordable ways to preserve big impact across a 3-day experience-rich wedding for $30,000. So we're gonna go vendor by vendor today, building this budget. And stick around for the end, I'm gonna show you exactly how to customize this budget according to what's important to you. Before I dive into this $30,000 budget, things I wanna tell you right off the bat we are not including in this budget are your personal expenses. Today, we are focusing on the wedding cost, the events over those 3 days. But things like your outfits for your wedding, your rings, your flights, and wedding planner will all be outside of this budget. These are gonna be your hard event costs. First item in our budget, the venue. Our goal is to spend no more than $5,000 US on your venue. Couple different ways to do that. It can either just be a cheap venue off the bat. We have a lot of them in this link up here where we talk about some of the best small wedding venues in Europe. Most of them less than $5,000. So be sure to check that video out. Or the venue could be more expensive than $5,000, but have a bunch of accommodations on site where your guests can actually pay for those rooms. And so after your guests are done subsidizing the cost, we just need what you pay to be $5,000 or less. A lot of my couples use that technique and have saved between $20,000 and $30,000. So that's a great opportunity to get a venue that's really nice, way more expensive, but only actually pay $5,000 out of your wedding budget. Third way to have a venue that's less than $5,000 is to get a venue that literally is free. This is typically going to be hotels. So hotels that will give you and your guests your room block. They're relying on the revenue from the hotels from you and your guests staying there and the food and beverage revenue from your events over the nights that your guests are staying there. And that covers all of the hotel's costs. They don't actually need to charge you an independent venue rental fee. Now, some hotels might still charge you a very nominal fee, but it should be less than $5,000. Now, it might go without saying that some venues are going to be significantly more or less expensive, just depending on where they are within Europe. Specific countries and even regions can sway your costs. For example, Lake Como, expensive. Portugal, not as expensive. So where you're planning your wedding matters. For my list of the cheapest destinations to get married at in Europe, check out this video and it will guide you in the right direction. Give yourself a fighting chance and just stay away from the high cost regions. Next up is food and beverage. So in total, for your 3 days, we need to spend no more than $12,000 US. If you're keeping track with us, between the venue and the food and beverage, we're up to $17,000. That is over half your budget. That is appropriate because venue and food and beverage are going to be your most expensive items. You can't really get around those. But let's break down $12,000 and what's actually realistic within that $12,000. Inside of that $12,000, we need your first day to be a casual welcome dinner. These are typically beer and wine only events, and the food is like casual. So if you're in Italy, maybe it is a pizza party. If you're in Portugal, maybe it's a Portuguese barbecue, but something that's gonna be a low per person cost with some local beers and wines. Then you have the wedding day where you have your classic cocktail hour or aperitivo, and then you have your dinner, then you have your dancing and dessert after, typically. Again, in the name of trying to save money, I would go into it expecting that bar for your wedding day to be a beer and wine only bar. We're gonna talk about how to upgrade that bar beyond that when we get to the end of this budget and we have money left over to throw at different priorities. So if your priority is an open bar, put a pin in that. We will come back to that, but for now, we're gonna assume local beers and wines and fabulous food from the local region. Day 3, we're gonna assume the event is a brunch, and a lot of these properties will have built-in breakfasts on site, especially if you have a venue that has accommodations tied to it. Hotels or villa buyouts will have those. That's a great option if we can just lean into what you're already paying for as part of the revenue from the guest rooms. If it's not included inside of the guest rooms. You can actually increase the cost of what your guests are paying for those rooms and have it more of like a breakfast included price. The rest of day 3 is optional. You can either continue on and do an excursion with everybody and have your guests pay their own way for that excursion, or you can say, see ya, we're going off to our honeymoon and everyone can do whatever they want. Lunches for day 1 and day 2 are going to be choose your own adventure style. This is totally normal, highly recommended. I don't recommend like over scheduling and planning out every single little meal. Just make sure that on your wedding website you throw a couple places that people can go to get lunch, and they're going to go and they're going to pay for it themselves, so that doesn't need to come out of your $12,000. Just like venues, it's true that this budget can go farther depending on the region that you're in. There's going to be higher cost food and beverage prices per person in higher cost regions. So again, go back to that video I just mentioned with the cheapest destinations to get married in so that your budget can go farther for you. Now let's get to the elephant in the room. In order to keep this budget below $12,000, you need to cut your guest list down. This budget will not work for 100 people. It won't work for 75 unless you literally have a venue and food and beverage in your $30,000 and nothing else. It can sometimes work for 50 people, but that's really pushing it. This budget works best for 30 guests or less. To do that per person math for you, it's 12,000 divided by 30 is $400 per person for the entire weekend. That would cover the night before, food and bar, the wedding day, food and bar, and potentially that third day brunch if it's not included, and taxes and the exchange rate. So when I say $400 per person, I am including an all-in price in US dollars for the entire weekend. You start getting these venue quotes and they're like, hey, it's gonna be 300 euros for the wedding dinner plus that venue is out of budget. With food and beverage, it is like a law of the universe. The more people you have, the more expensive it will be. So please cut your guest list to be able to keep your budget at $30,000 and have more than just a venue and food and beverage. You need to have less guests, like 30 or less, or you need to raise your budget or have lower expectations. We're gonna lock in food and beverage for $12,000 at 30 guests. Next up is photography. Our goal for this category is to spend no more than $4,000. If you're keeping track, that brings us up to $21,000. It is absolutely doable to find a photographer for less than 4,000 US dollars. Here's some key things you're gonna be looking for in a photography package that will work for that price. A, we want them to be based in Europe so that you're not accruing any unnecessary travel fees from the US or otherwise. B, we want it to be one photographer instead of 2 photographers to just cut down on the fees. C, we want that package to be for 6 to 8 hours. So typically the lowest package you'll find is a 6-hour package. Mid-tier is 8 hours, high tier would be 10 or a full day coverage. The less time the photographer is on site, the lower the cost. Because we need to cut wherever we can, we want them to get beautiful photos for the most important parts of the day, but we don't want them to linger and then you're ending up spending thousands of dollars more that you don't have in your budget. We are not going to be paying for content creation, and we're not going to be paying for videography. It just doesn't fit in this budget. We'll talk about it at the end. You're currently shouting at the screen at me saying, I need videography. Put a pin in it. We'll talk about it at the end. Hopefully this is helpful and you're not shouting at the screen at me. Trying to give you guys some real numbers, okay? I want you to succeed here. Let's talk rentals. Rentals are things like tables, chairs, linens, forks, knives, napkins, glassware, etc., etc. Some people would need money in a rentals line if they want to upgrade. So you see weddings on Instagram and Pinterest that have like the colored goblet, the colorful linen printed, the tufted chair. All of those things cost money, right? But if you want to just use the free stuff, which in this budget we are planning to, you're going to use what's already at your venue and provided by your caterer. So for our rentals line, we are spending $0, meaning when you are booking your venue, you are going to ask them, send me a picture of all the free stuff you guys have that I can use. Make sure that there's enough tables, chairs, linens, and all of that stuff from either your venue or your caterer that will cover your number of guests. And because this is designed for an intimate guest count, it should, but it's gonna be beautiful, it's gonna be classy, nothing's gonna be plastic, but it's gonna be free. If this is resonating with you, hit that like button right now. I'll do more of these cost breakdowns if you find them helpful. Moving on to lighting, kind of in the same vein here, our goal for lighting is to spend $0. We want to lean into the lights that are already at the venue. So before you choose your venue, in addition to asking them what rentals are included, you're gonna ask them if all of the event spaces already have the lighting that they need. Meaning, I could have dinner outside, it could be dark, and there will be lights. You'd be surprised at the number of venues that don't include lights and then make you go rent them afterwards. These types of lights, these string lights, absolutely beautiful. More and more venues across Europe are adding them inherently as part of their package, so they're free and they're included in the venue rental price that you're already paying. That's what we're looking for. Next up is entertainment. The goal here is to spend no more than $1,500. That is bringing our budget up to $22,500. How do you get entertainment for no more than $1,500? What we have done in the past is actually super classy. You're gonna use that money and you're gonna pay for a trio of live musicians to play during cocktail hour and dinner. Optional to have them play during the ceremony as well. It's beautiful, it's local, it's cultural, it's memorable, it's a high impact moment that you will not forget, and it is such a small part of your budget. Now, if you pictured dancing your face off after dinner, you're gonna go to the club. Okay, you're going to specifically position yourself at a venue that has access to nightlife. Or you can have a friend that has a really great Bluetooth speaker. I've seen that happen, honestly, it works. If you have a friend that you want to assign to be the DJ that night and you can like get them a nice little gift for doing that, that is fine, as long as your venue is okay with that. But in this budget, we are not going to pay for a DJ. Again, if you're screaming, okay, I need a DJ, wait till the end. There will be an opportunity to add a DJ. But for now, I want you to be open to the possibility of not having one. The reason why I say that is to get a DJ that's actually going to make a difference, that's actually going to know how to mix, that is going to be a huge step up from your friend with their Spotify account. And they're gonna have the sound equipment and all of that stuff. It's gonna cost you between $2,500 and $3,500. So I would skip this for now because we need this money for somewhere else. Next up is gonna be decor / stationery, so our paper goods. Our goal for this budget is to spend no more than $500. If you're following along, that brings us up to $23,000. This is the biggest opportunity for cost savings because stationery and decor, it's things, it's not paper. And a lot of my clients are looking for these experience-rich 3 days, not that's a pretty menu, you know? So in order to spend $500, we are going to leverage technology. We're gonna do an e-save the date, an electronic save the date. We're gonna do an electronic invitation, and we're only going to use paper goods that we actually need to have on site. This would be for a group of 30 place cards, just to show people where to sit, or even little table numbers and a way to tell people what their table number is. So this could also serve as your favor if you wanted to do like little luggage tags that also have the number of their table, or it could be a little bottle of limoncello or olive oil wrapped around with the number of their table. So you can use that $500 as a decor piece in the sense that it's also doing something functional, which is telling people where to sit. That's really the only necessary paper good at your wedding. You don't need menus, you don't need a welcome sign, you don't even need a bar sign, you don't need custom cocktail napkins, you don't need ceremony programs. We are trying to be so lean in this budget, so we need to only use what we need. Next up, flowers. Our goal for this budget is to spend no more than $2,000 on your flowers. It's actually a lot harder than it sounds to do that because when you go to a wedding florist in Europe, a lot of them are going to have minimums of 5,000 euros. So to spend 2,000 means we have to get a little creative here. To do $2,000, you're either going to contact that florist and say that you'll pick up your items and you're going to keep them really small, or you're going to go through a flower shop. So just in the first example, let's say you have $2,000, you go to a wedding florist and you say, hey, my budget's $2,000, I need 5 bouquets and some clear vases to put those bouquets in, you know, to be used later in the night on the tables for decoration, and also like 20 small single stem bud vases. So it could literally be like a little glass container with a couple of stems in them. And that's what's gonna pepper down your tables. You could even throw in some candles if you have it in your budget. Someone goes and picks that up, sets all of it up, and then takes it down after the wedding. You are effectively partially DIYing your flowers here. Or you can also cut this down further. If you're like, I don't even care about flowers enough to spend $2,000, I wanna spend less than $1,000. In this case, you are going to full on DIY your flowers. Do not do this if you don't want to, okay? You're gonna outsource this to a person who's coming to your wedding that's more than happy to do this. Even better if they have a rental car so that they can move around and transport all of this stuff easily. But in this case, they're gonna go to a flower shop, literally any flower shop that's closest to your venue. You can ask your venue for their recommendations, and you're going to say, hi, I need a bucket of 200 flowers. And whoever's picking that up is going to process those flowers. They're going to take the extra leaves off. If there's roses, they're going to dethorn them. They're going to cut them. They're going to put them in vases that maybe you brought over from Amazon, and then they're going to put them out on the actual tables. And then they're going to break them down that night. It's a process, okay? This is very in-depth. In order to replace the need to have an actual wedding florist, someone has to do some manual labor here. So if you're valuing saving money over convenience and you have someone to delegate this to, this makes sense. If you do not have those things, you might need to increase your budget and outsource this to an actual wedding florist. Next up is going to be hair and makeup. If you don't want your hair and makeup done professionally, you can take this out of your budget. If you do want it done professionally, we're going to say our goal is to spend less than $600 on hair and makeup in this budget. That brings us up to $25,100. That is going to cover just one person's hair and makeup. So if that's you, then it'll cover your hair and makeup or your partner's hair and makeup. If you both want hair and makeup, double that price. But what we need to do is keep the costs low by not paying, if you have a wedding party, by not paying for your wedding party to get their hair and makeup done as well. They can either pay for it themselves or they could do it on their own. And if again, you're screaming at the screen saying, "Hey, I'm not gonna make them do it on their own. They have to have hair and makeup," put a pin in it, we'll talk about it at the end. Next up is officiant. The goal for the officiant is to spend no more than $200, bringing us up to $25,300. The officiant budget is to give your officiant a gift to thank them for doing it for free. A life hack. The point is, you can either get married legally, civilly in Europe, or you can get married legally and civilly back home in the US and then have a symbolic wedding in Europe. That is the route that I highly recommend. Doing paperwork to get legally married in Europe is very difficult. For me, the juice isn't worth the squeeze to do that. I would just get married back home either before or after. You can even get married while in Europe on your wedding day via Zoom with an officiant who's on Zoom getting you a license in the United States. Virtualmarriage.com, highly recommend it. We've used it before, very smooth. But we don't want to pay about $1,000 for an officiant to legally marry you in Europe. So get married legally elsewhere, and then have a friend write up a whole ceremony and symbolically deliver this script as your ceremony officiant, and then you have $200 to get them a nice gift. Okay, we're at the end and we've only spent $25,300. So what we're gonna do now, we have a $3,000 floating fund. You ever seen those HGTV shows where it's like Joanna Gaines and she's like, you can either get the shiplap in the kitchen or the sliding barn door in the closet. You have $3,000 and I'm telling you that you can either get the following. You have a few options, you get to pick one of these, okay? If your priority is, above all else, experiences for your guests, you're gonna use your $3,000 to pay for an excursion on day 3. Comes out to about $100 per person. So you could go wine tasting, you could do a pasta making class. You can use that money to either completely pay for or subsidize partially whatever you want to do as a group the day after your wedding. This could also be the day before. It doesn't really matter which day you do it. It's just whenever you have flexible time as a group. If you still want to do that type of excursion but you don't want to pay for it, you can put it up as an optional excursion on your website that your guests opt into and pay for, and then we can use that $3,000 for something else. So your next option, if your priority above all else is guest comfort and making it financially easier for your guest, then you're gonna put that money towards transportation and hair and makeup for your wedding party. So $3,000 is enough to pay for both. And in this case, what you're doing is covering your hair and makeup for your group. I'm assuming like 5 people. We're not going like 10, 15, not like that. But you could cover that cost for them to make it a little bit financially easier for them. And then the other money could go towards anyone who might be staying off site that needs transportation to and from your wedding event so that they don't have to cover those costs, or B, if a group is coming in and landing at the airport at the same time, or they're gonna stay in the city for a couple days and you need group transport to get out to your wedding venue and back, then you can use those funds to cover that transfer. Option 3, C, was I using letters or numbers to count? I forget. The third option, if above all else your priority is aesthetics, you're gonna take that $3,000 and you are gonna put it towards your floral line and your rentals. What that will allow you to do is add on nicer linens, nicer chairs, add some candlelight, add some specialty flowers by going through a wedding florist. So you'll be able to use that money to kind of beef up how your table and how your flowers look. You can also use that money to put it towards ceremony flowers, since that $2,000 that we have already budgeted doesn't really include anything for that. So if you want to, you could use some ground pieces that you can repurpose into your reception by putting in front of the bar. You can put them on the ends of your table. So there's a lot of ways to get more value for dollar, higher impact if you are going to put that money towards your ceremony flowers. Option 4, if your priority above all else is the food, you're gonna put that $3,000 to upgrade your menu. This includes the bar. So all you people that were shouting at me before, that was like, "Hey, we need to have an open bar." Option 4 is for you. You could add a late night bite, you could upgrade to a nicer menu option, you can open that bar, you can add open bar the night before, you could do so many different things with an extra $3K for your food and beverage. Option 5, if footage, coverage, photo video coverage of your wedding is the most important priority to you above all else, you're gonna use that $3,000 to add videography or content creation. Or you can still just keep it to a photographer, but go from $4,000 to $7,000 to get a more experienced, seasoned, published photographer. I think we're on 6. Option 6, if your priority above all else is to dance all night long, dance your face off, then you're gonna put that $3,000 towards a DJ. You'll be able to stay at your venue, you don't have to leave to go to the club. You'll be able to customize the music to exactly what you want and maintain that privacy, and you can go all night long. You could even decide to forego the musicians that we budgeted for in the beginning and put that $1,500 towards a DJ and a saxophonist. So you got money to play with in your whole entertainment line here. Those are your 6 add-on options. So you and your fiance have to talk and decide which one is the most important. You get to choose one. After you add on your $3,000 add-on, that brings your total budget up to $28,800 US. So you still have a little bit of wiggle room there. We're not gonna spend that money. I want you to save that money as a contingency, an emergency fund. This is gonna cover variances in the exchange rate. This will cover bank fees from sending international wire transfers. It's gonna cover any unexpected costs or hidden fees that pop up. And that brings you to 30. Now, this is just one way that your budget could shake out. There are a lot of ways to cut costs. You can watch this video here for all of my cost-saving tips to have a low-budget destination wedding in Europe. Now you know it's possible to have a 3-day wedding in Europe that is absolutely fabulous for $30,000, but you might still be feeling lost about how to actually apply this information. Super shameless plug. We work with wedding budgets starting at $30,000 every day, planning multi-day intimate destination weddings in Europe. So if you want our help to go from overwhelmed and confused to confident and on budget, come join us. The link to plan with us is in the description below. Be sure to subscribe for more tips and watch this video next.